Red Bull has recently come under fire in the media after the FIA revealed that the team made a major rule break during the 2021 season. Teams and drivers alike have been rightfully outraged, calling for harsh penalties to be imposed, claiming that the team has gained a significant unfair advantage over the competition. In this video, we'll look at how other drivers, including Red Bull's main competitors and their own, have reacted to the news. After initially delaying the announcement, the FIA confirmed on the Monday after the Japanese Grand Prix that Red Bull had committed a procedural breach and a minor overspend in 2021, meaning a figure of up to 5% of the $145 million cap last year. The announcement comes after weeks of speculation about whether Red Bull met the budget cap last year, including team principal Christian Horner's denial that the accounts submitted in March were over the cap. Red Bull issued the following statement in response to the FIA announcement. "We note the findings by the FIA of minor overspend breaches of the financial regulations with surprise and disappointment. Our 2021 submission was below the cost cap limit, so we need to carefully review the FIA's findings, as our core belief remains that the relevant costs are under the 2021 cost cap amount. Despite the conjecture and positioning of others, there is of course a process under the regulations with the FIA which we will respectfully follow while we consider all the options available to us." Christian Horner stated in Singapore that his team had not broken the cost cap. But an hour after Max Verstappen won the 2022 driver's title in Japan, Horner received a phone call confirming that the breach had occurred. Several media outlets have since reported that the FIA has made Red Bull an offer to settle the breach under the terms of unaccepted breach agreement. This means Red Bull pled guilty and cannot appeal, but they can take the case to an adjudication panel if they reject the ABA's final ruling. Since then, additional reports have shed some light on how Red Bull ended up in this situation. According to sources, Red Bull was initially well within the cost cap figure of $145 million by about $4 million before multiple factors combined to push them $1.8 million over. These included internal costs for gardening leave and sick pay, as well as catering costs. Other factors that pushed the team over the cap included the use of spare parts and a tax situation with UK authorities, which resulted in the team going from $4 million under to $1.8 million over, a $5.8 million swing. Red Bull, of course, has been adamant in their denial of any breach, as has two-time world champion Max Verstappen, who stated in Austin, "It's something between the team and the FIA anyway, right? And from our side, we have a strong belief that we were in it, so that's why we are discussing about it, to show what we think is right. But at the end of the day, it's not up to me. I'm just focused on the performance on track." Asked if he was bothered by everyone discussing the budget cap, Verstappen replied, "It just depends what you read. For me, I think what we have achieved this year is incredible. And about the budget cap, yes, they're talking about it now, but like I said before, we think that we are right, and we will of course always believe in our cause, and we will show that to the FIA. Now it's up to them, of course, to make a decision. Also, that will go away again." Mercedes has been the most vocal team in its opposition to Red Bull in this controversy, with team principal Toto Wolff repeatedly urging the FIA to impose harsh penalties. Lewis Hamilton, their star driver, is no exception. While the seven-time world champion was initially coy on the subject, he has now warned that if Red Bull does not face a serious penalty for exceeding the Formula One budget cap, the spending's limit purpose will be rendered obsolete in the future. Hamilton has previously stated that he believes an overspend could have had a significant impact on the outcome of the 2021 World Championship, which he narrowly lost to Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Before the United States Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, the seven-time champion insisted that the FIA take decisive action to punish any violation of the cap. "I do think the sport needs to do something about this for the future. Because otherwise, if it is quite relaxed with these rules, then all the teams will just go over and spend millions more. Then only having a slap on the wrist is not going to be great for the sport. They might as well not have a cost cap in the future." The penalties for a minor violation are listed in the financial regulations and include a public reprimand, a deduction in drivers' or constructors' points, suspension from championship stages excluding races, restrictions on future aerodynamic testing, and a reduction in the cost cap for the following year. Exclusion or suspension from the championship, on the other hand, is only reserved for a material breach, which means Red Bull and its drivers cannot be kicked out of last year's championship for overspending. Hamilton was denied an 8th World Championship in controversial circumstances when race director Michael Masi made an unprecedented call that allowed Verstappen to take the lead on the final lap before winning the race and title. The Brit considered leaving the sport before returning in 2022 and moving on from the incident. But amidst old wounds have been reopened by the Dutchman's team being found to have exceeded the sport's budget cap in its first season. I don't necessarily have much of an opinion because I'm not really focused on it. It's happened in the past for me. I would say I'd moved on from last year, and of course, it's popping up at this point of the season definitely brings up emotion for many people, the fans, for everyone. And how it went down at the end of last year, and then on top of that, this happened. It goes without saying that the penalty imposed by the FIA will have serious consequences. The Red Bull breach is a litmus test for future decisions, and the precedent set by the FIA will have a significant impact on the budget cap's future. If the penalty is too lenient, other teams will undoubtedly skirt the rules in order to keep up, which would defeat the entire purpose of the regulations. To conclude, Lewis Hamilton drew parallels between his own situation and how the FIA has handled penalties for seemingly minor infractions, while expressing hope that the governing body will make the correct decision. "We got a $25,000 fine for me having this nose ring in, and a $50,000 fine for having that wing and put to dead last in the race, so I'm hopeful. I truly believe that I have to have belief in the FIA and the people that are leading this team, that they're going to make the right decisions." Lando Norris is one driver that has backed Lewis Hamilton in his call for the FIA to impose harsh penalties for any cost cap violations. The McLaren driver believes that one season of exceeding the salary cap can lead to years of sustained success. Of course, I think because teams are trying to be as efficient as possible with every single thing that they do, any small amount over is, in any part of Formula One, a big advantage. Considering there has been such a rule applied to make things more comparable for everyone, give all teams a better chance at fighting, it's just an unfair stat within the performance of Formula One. There should be a pretty hefty penalty for whoever does cross the line. The thing is, it doesn't just benefit you for one single season, Norris added. If it helps you in that first one to get going, it's always kind of a knock-on effect the next few years. Drivers have generally acknowledged that the complexity of the case with the budget cap is difficult to unravel. But aside from Verstappen, drivers have been forthcoming in their thoughts on what should happen to any rule breakers. One driver who has been somewhat neutral on the subject is Fernando Alonso, as he recalled losing 2 title battles to Sebastian Vettel and insisting that financial disputes have always been a part of F1. Alonso was a Ferrari driver in 2010 and 2012 when he lost the championship to Vettel, who was driving for Red Bull at the time. And now the team that once defeated him is embroiled in a scandal. "This has always been part of F1, Alonso said at the United States Grand Prix. "This is a new thing we implemented recently, the cost cap. But there were always things aerodynamically that you could explore, some gray areas. And always people who won the championships, they weren't exploiting that gray area. And then the other teams copy and they eventually get to that level, or they ban that thing that was allowed for 1 or 2 races." Alonso also mentioned the 2019 Ferrari engine debacle, in which the Italian team reached a private settlement with the FIA over the legality of their machinery, only to see their performance plummet the following year. Ferrari won, I think, 2 races in 2019, with something we all knew was not legal and nothing happened. They kept those wins. It's quite amazing. Imagine that they won the championship in 2019 with that engine. It is very difficult, and we need to rely on the people who have the power and trust them. What are your thoughts on the entire situation? Do you agree with the rest of the paddock that Red Bull should be penalized harshly? Given the importance of the budget cap, we believe that a severe punishment is warranted. Let us know if you agree in the comment section below.